Hello, you're listening to Shoot the Hostage. My name's Sarah, and together with my partner Dan, we are a movie podcast where we talk about 8 different films per season based around a specific theme. Now, if you're hearing my voice, that means it's my choice of theme this season. But before we get stuck in, I do want to mention we get quite spoilery, so please bear that in mind. We don't want to ruin the film for you, so if you haven't seen it, maybe go away and then come back. If you like what you hear and you would like to help us out, there are a number of ways you can do that. The absolute easiest one is to just recommend us to a friend. If you want to go the extra mile, a 5-star review on Spotify would be hugely appreciated. A review on your podcast player of choice would also be hugely helpful. And if you really, really want to help us, we've got a Patreon, which is £3 a month, and you get access to a ton of extra content in the form of reviews of new cinema releases, new streaming releases. You get to see the lineup of the season ahead of time, and we do a wrap show at the end of every season. But all of that aside, I just want to say thank you for listening, and let's get stuck in.
Boom, boom. Hey, 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 hey. Boom, boom, boom. Whoa.
I mean,
Boom, 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 boom.
are you going to do that whole thing? I feel like I'm on an episode of Nevermind the Buzzcocks.
What song is it?
I have no idea based on that. At least we know Spotify won't flag us.
Yeah. It was the House Martins, obviously.
Sure. What are we covering this week, Dan?
It's The Breakfast Club.
It is. It's a bit of a departure from the last few shows.
Oh, it's been a bit of a bumpy road in terms of emotionals.
It's been pretty
Emotions.
heavy.
It's been a bit up and down.
Yeah.
Not in terms of quality, but in terms of just grubby, grimy stuff, but also funny sometimes.
Yeah.
So, a bit of a departure from that, you're right. But we're still in your season, and it's the penultimate episode
Already
of your season 6 Trapped season.
Yeah.
That's gone so fast.
I know.
Can't believe it. Next week, the last episode of the season. But a nice, would you say, sort of a fluffy movie?
To me,
Yeah.
but probably not to everyone.
Not a fluffy movie?
I don't think it's fluffy.
You don't think this movie's fluffy?
Oh, this? Oh, I thought we were talking about next week's. I was going to say that's not fluffy.
No. This week, I feel like we're doing something fluffy. I feel like
fluffy, yeah.
next week's not fluffy.
No.
Next week is a return to the darkness. You're going to end with a dark episode.
I don't think it's dark.
You think it's fluffy then?
I think it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. It is quite fun. All right.
Let's do away with the ambiguity and we'll circle back at the end of the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, so The Breakfast Club is fluffy.
It is fluffy. I think it's fluffy. I'm glad that you agree with me that it's fluffy because I do think that it's very fluffy.
Good. Apart from all of the sexual harassment and the homophobia. Beyond that, absolute fluff city.
That stuff is not very fluffy.
It's not ideal.
No, it's not. But it's our first, and we'll talk about a lot of that stuff, I'm sure.
We will.
It's our first John Hughes movie, who is very prolific, synonymous with the 80s, responsible for a lot of the shit that we won't let go of now.
Yeah, I would say so.
And
kind of a powerhouse between like 84 and 87, 88. He was just pumping them out.
I went through his credits on IMDb. I just... Did he sleep in the 80s?
I don't believe so.
I mean, how much cocaine was there in LA?
I mean, less. After these movies. No,
yeah.
Allegedly.
So I've got, I wrote down his credits, right? So he directed only 9 movies.
Okay.
But he just was a writing just fucking loon.
Was one of them Baby's Day Out?
Yeah.
Oh no. Tarnished an otherwise perfect record.
Baby's Day Out in 1994. That was the last one I wrote down, actually. There were others after that, but they were more sort of like based on characters by like Beethoven. Weird Science.
I love Beethoven.
I like
Beethoven's second was good. Yeah.
I'm a Beethoven's second guy, definitely. That's the one with Debbie Mazar in it.
Oh, yeah.
And she's the villain.
We know how much you love her.
Yeah, good in Space Truckers. But John Hughes, it just the stuff that he wrote, Mr. Mum. Got Mr. Mum on there. That's a Michael Keaton movie, which I don't think I've seen.
Okay.
National Lampoon's Vacation, 83. Yep. 16 Candles, 84.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, Breakfast Club, 85.
Yep.
European Vacation, after that.
Yep.
I've written down a date, but I want to say 85 as well. Weird Science, 85.
I thought that was later for some reason.
It's I don't know.
Back to back.
That's insane that he just did all this stuff over that time period. Pretty in Pink, 86. Ferris Bueller, 86.
Yeah.
Some Kind of Wonderful, 86.
That was 86 as well. Yeah. Wow.
Planes, Trains and Automobiles, 87.
Yeah.
And then we're getting to the movies that I've never heard of, like She's Having a Baby.
You've never heard of that?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
The Great Outdoors, which I have seen.
Yep.
Uncle Buck.
Oh, I loved Uncle Buck when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think I saw it twice and pretty enjoyed it. Fine.
Okay.
But I like John Candy. John Candy's just a nice presence.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't watched a John Candy movie for a while, you know.
He's not been making them recently.
No, he definitely... Did he retire?
We shouldn't be laughing about this.
I'm not laughing. I miss him. He was great.
He was great. He was one of the greats.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I'm dead, you can joke about my death. It's fine.
Okay, I will. Don't worry.
I won't give a shit. I promise you that.
Yeah, you won't be around to care.
No. What do we do? So Christmas Vacation, 89. We're still in the 80s.
Classic.
Home Alone.
I mean, some say it's good.
Some meaning both of us.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, good.
It gave us the Wet Bandits.
Yeah.
Icons of cinema.
Yeah. Curly Sue.
Oh, that was one of my nicknames when I was a kid.
Was it?
Yeah.
Why is that then?
I don't know.
Dennis the Menace.
I saw that at the cinema.
Did you?
I interviewed my local cinema manager and he showed me around the projection room and I got to see Dennis the Menace.
That's awesome.
And it was the best day of my life.
From the projection room?
Yeah, I was like 7 or 8 when it came out, I guess.
That's so good.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was for the school paper.
Oh, so you had a column. Mm-hmm. Did you have a regular column?
I think it was like a one and done school paper, yeah. I think they quickly realised that allowing sort of 8 to 11-year-olds to write a newspaper was probably not the best idea.
No, I think it's a great idea. Did you get paid?
No. That's a pretty good run of films.
There's so many classics in there, but just in terms of quantity of stuff over kind of one decade blows your mind.
It's weird because I wouldn't even say the quality was like overwhelmingly amazing, but I think it is testament to just how popular he was that we still are talking about all these films today. I mean, maybe not Curly Sue.
No.
But the bulk of them, you know, especially the ones from the 80s.
There's so many of people's favourite movies in that list.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I don't think he's...
He wasn't like the best at anything.
He was quite good at... Yeah.
But he was like solid.
Because there's something about a John Hughes movie, whichever one you watch, and I find it kind of hard to grasp what it is.
Mm.
But there's something about it that kind of draws me in. And I don't always love them.
Yeah.
I don't always enjoy them that much, but there's always something.
You didn't get much out of 16 Candles, did you?
I don't believe I did, no.
No.
And I didn't see that at the time. I was pretty late to the Breakfast Club, actually.
Were you?
Yeah, I don't think I saw this until... I forget the first time I saw it, but I don't think it was before I was 20.
Wow.
So it was definitely a late one.
Okay.
I think I was kind of aware of it, but John Hughes for me was always the Ferris Bueller guy.
Yeah, of course.
Ferris Bueller's my favourite John Hughes movie by a country mile.
Swing batter.
Don't get me started. You know better. Batter. Yeah, Ferris Bueller's my absolute favourite. And then knowing that he'd written things like Vacation and like some of my favourite silly Chevy Chase comedies of the 80s, And then less so this kind of the other high schooly stuff, I kind of knew it for. But, watching them as I'm a bit older, I find Breakfast Club a little bit tedious.
Do you?
I do.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get into that. But there's still something that I'm still kind of having a good time here. I'm still kind of enjoying the ride.
It's
but
funny
how
how
long
you
is this
say
movie?
that. Yeah, well, so I don't find it tedious at all. I'm still involved in what's going on, but there's a lot about it that I dislike now, viewed through a modern lens. And I know that's sort of perhaps a little bit unfair. Like, you can't really view it through a modern lens because it came out in 1985. So am I being cruel by applying more modern standards to it when it's a product of its time? I don't know, but I certainly enjoy it a lot less now. Yeah, I just remember thinking, I think I watched it when I was like 12 or 13 and I was like, this is so profound.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, they may as well have just called it, aren't parents awful?
Aren't teenagers awful?
Yeah.
Don't
Vile.
smoke weed in the library.
Oh, is that what that was?
It will stink of weed. You morons. The teacher's going to be like half a mile away going, I can smell weed. But it wasn't as strong back then, apparently.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine it probably wasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this takes place all in one day.
Yeah.
This is kind of your jam because it's a stuck in a place movie.
This could have fitted in with so many different seasons that we may or may not do down the line. Stuck in a place, course of a day, like you say, shot in sequence.
Yeah, I read that. I wonder why. Do you think that was sort of to do with the developing relationships between the actors off screen? Sort of.
I think because of the nature of the screenplay, my gut feeling is that because they were all kind of always together, with the exception of a couple of scenes, it's not like you had to muck about with people's schedules because you had to shoot it where everyone was together, and you're in one location, so you haven't got location scheduling, you haven't got cast scheduling to worry about. So it's kind of like
that
you might as well just shoot it. There's going to be some.
Molly Ringwald was still in school.
Well, that is a scheduling discrepancy.
Yeah. So apparently some scenes, particularly obviously filmed from behind, whatever, were her stand-in because, I mean, I guess her and Anthony Michael Hall were still legally children at the time, and there would have been a limit to how many hours they'd have been allowed to work, and they had to complete their schooling as well. So definitely some conflicts.
Yeah, of course. But I think because, mostly you those things were pretty sweet, they took the opportunity to film it in sequence over the course of about 4 weeks, I think.
Yeah. That's how he was able to make so many films in a year.
Yeah. And they're not the most expensive. This one was made for $1 million.
Okay.
In 1984, so...
Adjusted for inflation?
100 million. Right. That movie would be $150 million now, wouldn't it?
No, I don't think it would.
No, it wouldn't. You're right. What would it be though?
I'm amazed nobody's tried to remake. Wait, or did they try to remake it?
I don't believe so.
Oh, am I having a Mandela effect?
Possibly.
Am I in the wrong timeline? Yeah. If there isn't a remake already, I'm amazed that it hasn't been suggested.
Yeah, maybe that's something worth looking into because I'm pretty surprised that it's not happened. I'm surprised that a sequel's not happened.
Well, it was supposed to.
What happened?
There was talk. There was talk at the time of potentially doing sequels like every 10 years, catching up with the same characters, like 10 years apart.
Like that documentary. What's it called? 7 and Up.
I don't remember.
Right. Side discussion.
Okay.
Off mic.
But yeah, apparently John Hughes and Judd Nelson just got on so badly that Hughes was like, I never want to work with this human again.
Well, he was a massive prick apparently on set.
Yeah. Oh, he was awful to everybody. He went full method.
He went full Leto.
He was so cruel to Molly Ringwald. Ugh. What a prick.
Yeah, and apparently Hughes nearly fired him.
Yes, I heard that.
But was talked into keeping him because someone explained to him, but look, he's just being method. But
there's no excuse, especially when you're playing a teenager, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, and just get fucking Cusack back, who was meant to play that role anyway.
Yeah, I read for like a few people who were talked about. I think Nicolas Cage was supposed to play the role at one point.
I think that works.
But they couldn't afford him, apparently.
Right. If that had have happened, would Judd Nelson have swapped faces with John Travolta?
No, I don't think that's how it works, no.
They swap careers.
Yeah. I don't like that. I don't like it when actors go method anyway.
Nah.
I think there's no excuse. But
I agree.
Particularly when it involves being a twat to those around you.
I think if you... Well, look, I think my opinion, as with everything, as long as you're not hurting anyone, fine. So if you want to go method, but, you know, the method is you're just being quiet or whatever, or a bit obnoxious, you know, not too much, but like maybe a bit sharp or whatever. God, was I born in 1793? A bit sharp. But it's the minute that you start to make other people's life a misery is where you draw the line. Anything, I think. So yeah, what a bell end. And it doesn't... Knowing that stuff as well doesn't help with your viewing of the movie anyway. With things that are still a little bit like, oh God, am I meant to really be on this guy's side by the end of a movie? Because I'm really not. I want him to fall in the grass on a rugby field onto a sprinkler, and he can't move, and the sprinkler fills up his mouth and he drowns. I'd be punching the air.
I didn't let my imagination run away with me quite as much as you did. But I did have a similar reaction to that character this time.
Ugh.
Which is weird because during my research for this show, I discovered quite a few videos, articles, and people are generally on his side. Like, I get that there's nuance. He's a victim of abuse.
Because he's a sympathetic character to a degree.
To a degree. And obviously, like, you have to give him a bit of grace because he's a teenager.
Yeah.
In inverted quotes. A greying teenager.
Yeah.
He's had a very hard life.
37-year-old teenager.
But I just... There's a real barrier there between that character and me being on his side.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are, and a lot of people view him as almost the hero of the piece and are rooting for him.
I think I sort of get that. If, you know, at the end of the movie, all we see of that character is he's the final shot, right? So he punches the air and it's like freeze frame.
Yeah.
Hey, 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 hey. And then, so clearly you're meant to be like, yeah.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen enough character development from that character.
No, I'm not sure I've seen any, in all truth.
There is some. I'll admit that there is some growth there. But the growth is more... I'm not going to be a complete arsehole, but I'm going to still be a little bit of an arsehole. And he was a massive arsehole in the beginning.
He was
so that
such
is
a bell
growth.
end. It has only been, 8 hours?
Yeah. And maybe in a world where there's a sequel to this movie and you see that character kind of develop and maybe he becomes the hero and he's driving cars out of buildings, you know, you sort of get over that a little bit. But the fact that it ends there, you spend an hour and 40 minutes with this character who's been just... horrible for an hour and 25 minutes. And also, like, he was just always talking like, just mate, give it a rest, please. It was constant.
Yeah.
And it would drive me mad.
Even when he was alone.
Oh.
He was still flapping his gums.
Lord. Ali Sheedy did no talking.
Yeah.
And he did all of her talking for her.
Apparently, yeah. Yeah, she doesn't say anything until like the 25-minute mark, I think.
Is it? I thought it was later than that. And that's why she is my favourite character.
Yeah. She's also my favourite character. That's definitely not going to come as a surprise.
No, I'm glad. Well, if you just said it was Bender, I'd have been like, well, we've got something to talk about here.
No, it's the strange mentally ill one.
Yeah, of course. It's the interesting one.
Yeah.
It's the and right up until she gets the makeover.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, I have thoughts.
Yeah, of course you do.
We'll definitely swing back around to that.
So we're agreed then. We hate Bender.
Yes.
Get fucked, Bender.
Yeah.
I want it to be freeze frame on Emilio Estevez.
No, I'm not that fond of his character either.
No, he's not great.
He taped someone's buns together.
It took me a minute to realise. I turned to you and went, what did he say? And he went, tapes his buns. I'm like, what's that?
butt cheeks.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. I didn't realise that's what butt cheeks were called, buns.
Do you not? There's
No,
like
I
a
don't
famous
think so.
workout tape called Buns of Steel. It's basically just a lot of squats.
Oh, yeah, I think I saw that at a Cannes Film Festival a few years ago.
It's referenced in Clueless. See, everything I learned from movies.
Very good.
I'll stand by that. Yeah, I have questions about that as well.
About the buns?
Yes.
Yeah, like what way is it?
Well, yeah. I'm guessing it's sort of around and not up and down, because that would waste a lot of tape.
It would waste a lot of tape, yeah.
If it was diagonal, you'd have to do it both ways, but again, tape wastage.
Yep.
It's not very environmentally friendly.
So you would assume it was just around his kind of lower waist, around the bum.
One butt cheek to another butt cheek, yeah.
Right. Okay, so it's just one single piece of tape then?
Yeah.
And hair and skin came off when they removed it?
Apparently.
How strong is this tape? Where can I get some?
Apparently you can only buy it from the Home Shopping channel.
Right, is that the same channel that the teacher buys his calendars from?
Rigid.
Rigid, yeah. Which is a picture of a woman in swimwear.
On the beach.
Opening a toolbox on the beach.
Because why wouldn't you need to bring your toolbox to the beach? I mean, makes perfect sense to me.
That was the most bizarre thing when I noticed that. I thought, who's doing a set dressing on this?
Of all the things that don't make sense in this film, I love that that's the thing you focused on.
Yeah, I guess so. I haven't seen this movie a bunch. Like, I've seen it probably 3 times, 4 times maybe.
God, I might have seen this over 30.
Wow.
I watched it a lot when I was a teenager.
Whew, this is your Bad Boys.
It might be.
Yeah. But I do own it on Blu-ray, because it's one that I bought when I began my Blu-ray collection.
Re-began?
That makes no fucking sense. When I started buying physical media again, about 10 years ago or something, I was like, right, I'm only going to buy the movies I really like. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I really like The Breakfast Club.
Oh, so it was just guesswork.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it in ages. I'd seen it like once or whatever. And I watched it. I was like, oh yeah, no, I remember. I don't like it's all right. But I'm glad that I own it. You know, I will probably still go back to it at some point.
Okay, good.
But like, it will be like a background thing. I'm not really going to pay that much attention. Oh, it's the bit when they do the funny dance on the tabletop. Yeah, that's great. That's fun. Like, come back in every 10 minutes or so. It's like, oh, are they still all white? Yep, they're still all white characters. Maybe one day we'll get a sequel where they're not 5 white people sitting in a room together.
Yeah.
This might be the whitest movie I've ever seen.
I think you might be onto something there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all very white. They're all very heteronormative. This shit would not fly today. Right, we have to address it, because I think before there's any dialogue, I'm pretty sure when we're getting the establishing shots of the school and you're seeing all the like the exterior and the lockers, there's an F slur on a locker. Yeah, the homophobia starts before the dialogue does.
Straight away, yeah.
And I hate the fact that there was a time when that wouldn't have made me balk. That's crazy that was so accepted.
Agreed.
And it just kind of continues. Yeah,
it's throughout the movie. It's not like it's peppered in once, you know, like in Bill and Ted, for example, where you think, oh, misstep, but you know, it's done now. That's the moment it's happened. It's over.
Yeah, it's pretty. In this, it happens, and then you have to brace yourself for it to continue.
Yeah,
happening.
It's pretty consistent with that sort of stuff, which is another thing which has just made it age badly. And I get, like, you could, if you can watch it and just enjoy it and just think, oh, it was made in the 80s, whatever. That's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. But also you're fine to say that kind of bothers me and it removes some of the enjoyment for me.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of taste and opinion and what you can tolerate.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I stand against censorship. I don't believe in censorship. There's a whole thing happening now where children's books are being re-edited. Things like Roald Dahl. There's some racism or hints at racism. I'm not. He wasn't a great dude, but he wrote
allegedly
good children's books. Yeah, don't, like, if the estate of Roald Dahl is listening to this, we have nothing. You can't sue us for anything. I have nothing for you to take. But yeah, there's talk of a lot of slightly older books being re-edited, and there's a huge kind of support for this, and there's a huge swell of dissent online. And I have to say, I'm sort of in the latter category. I think if you're going to do anything, publish them with like an addendum at the start. Say, this language was indicative of things that people say at the time, but we now know to be offensive. Just a little disclaimer.
So you're going to ruin our covers with a warning?
Well, better than taking out big chunks of existing work.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't believe in censorship.
I agree with you. And I think my reasons for that is that if you just got rid of all that, then in a couple of generations, maybe it all returns and we forget that we ever did those sorts of things. And we hopefully we've gone forward and learnt from our mistakes.
Yeah.
That's the way that I view it anyway. It might be incorrect, but I agree with you. Let's not.
I mean, that's one of the purposes of studying history, right? So we don't recreate the mistakes of the past. So yeah, you're absolutely right there. We need to preserve that as a testament to the time period so that we don't go backwards.
I agree. And you might think maybe it's a bit of a false comparison, but in this movie, I kind of agree that I wouldn't want this to be edited, for example, to use the same example. I would want this to stay as it is, even though it's not the most enjoyable of times. Sometimes it's unpleasant. But the alternative is that they cut all of that out, and then half the movie's gone. Let's be honest, it's not a proper movie then.
Yeah, you're definitely missing some of the context.
But then we're not having a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think it's important for us to go, that wasn't cool. Let's make sure that we all know that that's not cool.
Like, sitting in that discomfort isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Because, like you say, that's how we learn from it.
But some kind of trigger warning is probably the happy medium.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with that?
I agree.
Just simple.
Yeah. But then people would have an issue with trigger warnings.
Oh,
so.
I know. The Jordan Peterson fans.
It's never going to appeal to everybody, is it?
Shut up. Clean your room.
But on that subject...
Jordan Peterson?
Not on the subject of Jordan Peterson,
on
the subject of potential homophobia in this film. What is a brownie hound? Genuinely, I've been too scared to Google it.
I don't know. I might Google it to find out what that is. I'm not sure. Possibly some kind of slur. Maybe because he enjoyed... I don't know, the naive part of me would like to believe that it's because he enjoyed eating cakes. And brownie is his favourite cake.
That would be the most innocent insult in this movie if it was just about his cake habit.
Yeah, unless it was pot brownies.
Maybe.
Let's do some cake.
But yeah, apparently it wouldn't surprise me if that was one of the things that Judd Nelson ad-libbed, because a bunch of the insults were direct from his brain. Like there was one, something Maxi Zoon Dweeby, which makes zero sense to me. I don't know. I have a vague idea of what it means, but apparently that was one he came up with. Was that an 80s term?
I've never heard of it. I do not know.
Same. I've never heard of it outside of this movie.
No. There's a lot of kind of vernacular that's odd and a bit alien to me. And maybe that's part of the reason that I find it hard to really get on board with any of these characters. I find them all a little bit annoying, if I'm being honest. Apart from...
They're all big whingers.
Apart from Ali Sheedy. Like, that's her character is I kind of genuinely enjoy that character from start to finish. She doesn't say a lot during the first act, but, she makes a monster sandwich out of sugar puffs and sugar.
Oh my God, that looks so gross.
I'd eat that. But I find all of the characters a little bit insufferable.
Yeah.
Even Anthony Michael Hall at the end of the movie, I'm just like, shut up, mate.
Just write your
fucking
clever. What did they have to write? Oh, essay. That's the word.
Yeah, and she was like, God. Why don't we just not write anything? You write it for us. And he's like, yeah, all right. And I'm thinking,
you dickhead.
Come on,
that's how they get you.
Yeah.
It is funny to experience this as a grown-up, because so much of the dialogue that I loved when I was a kid, like, when you grow up, your heart dies. And now I'm just listening to it, cringing, going, oh, fucking grow up.
Yeah.
Get a life.
Yeah.
You think you've got stuff to complain about now? Just you wait until you're a fucking taxpayer and you've got the crushing weight of that bearing down on you at all times.
All right. Mark Corrigan's coming out again.
All right, I'll put him back in the box.
No, I enjoy it. But Jeremy will also come out to play.
Oh, no.
I'll have you sectioned.
I'll section you. Yeah, I just think I get a lot less out of this film now as a middle-aged person.
I think it's funny because it probably does tap into that thing when you're a kid, you know, what's happening around you, your school, your friends, your environment, your holidays, what you're doing on the weekend.
Social hierarchies.
It's all the most important thing in the world. And
yeah,
you can't
imagine
imagine
all you know.
there being anything else. And then you leave and it's like, oh shit, I wish I was back in that environment.
God, I've never thought that.
No, me neither, really. But to a degree, like the no responsibilities bit was fun.
Yeah.
And just going and, you know, playing football or whatever, or, you know, it was fun. There was parts of it that was fun. But I maybe that this film is sort of, when people are watching it and it's nostalgic, they're sort of tapping into those kind of feelings as well. And that's part of their viewing experience. I do think I didn't see it when I was young. I think probably a lot of the love for it is people that saw it at the time. I would like to know what younger generations are kind of think of this movie and if it kind of holds up. If I had to guess, I would say it probably doesn't.
Do you reckon? Well. I think besides some of the language, I think some of the stuff that it deals with is kind of universal, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed. Because they are quite. What's the word? Like they each sort of are supposed to represent a particular
like an archetype.
Part of, you know, school society or whatever. An archetype. That's it. Yeah. So I guess that by that very nature, that it probably would appeal to some people.
Yeah, but I mean, it's very simplistic in its view of which thing you're supposed to slot into, but then I feel like that's sort of one of its strengths in a way. But
it is, yes, agreed. But also one of its strengths is that you know you don't have to fit into one of those things. Like I don't love that Ali Shee's character has that makeover in the end, and God, she was just disgusting before that, wasn't she?
Could barely look at her.
I was vomiting on the sofa. And then they gave her a white dress and was like, oh, that's better.
Apparently, Ali Sheedy and Molly Ringwald railed against that. They didn't want to do it.
Okay, good.
But John Hughes just wouldn't hear of it. Yeah. Was adamant that it had to be in there because it was sort of a trope during the 80s of like the ugly duckling becoming the swan. And obviously that continued well into the 90s as well.
Yeah.
And was brutally ripped apart in Not Another Teen Movie in, I want to say, like 2001.
The Space Odyssey?
No, the year.
Oh, right. I don't remember that part in that movie.
Stanley Kubrick's Not Another Teen Movie.
In another universe that exists.
Oh, why can't we be in that one? But yeah, he wouldn't hear of it, which is really saddening. That makes me very sad.
Yeah. I don't love that scene, obviously.
And it kind of goes against the message of the movie because it's basically reinforcing the whole you have to dress the part to fit in. Yeah.
Devil's advocate, you could read it the other way in that she was acting one way and it's fine to act another way if that's what you want. But I suppose it became such a trope that you just sort of fed up with it.
Yeah. I think she's much more appealing when she's a goth weirdo.
No, I agree totally. I totally agree with you. I think that there's probably another way to do that.
Yeah.
You know, have Emilio Estevez solve an equation or something. And the end of the movie,
oh my God, I'm smart.
He's like, oh, I really want to become Russell Crowe in that movie where he does
a beautiful
big
mind.
maths at people.
Is it a beautiful mind?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe they go the Goodwill Hunting route. And he just starts solving stuff on the board and walking away.
Yeah, the janitor that solves equations. It's a bizarre movie when you think about it.
It's very strange, yeah. I want to talk a little bit more because we spent a long time talking about Bender. So I want to examine the other characters a little bit. Andrew, what do you make of him? Because I'm not a huge fan of the double E, I'll be honest.
Oh, you're not? He's my
No.
guy.
Is he?
Yeah, he's my guy.
Because you're into like Young Guns and other stuff that he was in.
Young Guns, Young Guns and Young Guns 2 are two of probably my favourite movies of the 80s. I enjoy them a lot.
And I grew up on the Mighty Ducks, man.
And the Mighty Ducks, D2, the Mighty Ducks, because that's the best one.
D2 was good. Yeah, if you go backwards, the first one's so boring.
Yeah, I know. I saw the second one first and was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
Show me the flying V, goddammit.
Yeah. Nah, cool, puck. And 3 was just toilet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm partial to Mighty Ducks. Maybe do a rewatch soon.
Perhaps,
maybe do a Sunday afternoon movie session.
Maybe we need to do a sports theme one season.
We do need to do a sports theme, really. I thought about it, but my reservations are that they're all going to be the same movie.
Well, not if we stick the Mighty Ducks in there. That's there's got to be some other where the team that they focus on loses.
Rocky.
Okay, there you go. Spoilers.
That's the only one. Can't fucking, if you haven't seen Rocky 1, a 68-year-old movie, that's your fault.
But yeah, so I'm partial to Coach Gordon Bombay.
Yeah.
But outside of that role,
so you're not a fan of Free Jack, is what you're saying?
I'm not. No.
Oh, good Lord, we need to. There's some movies that you have to watch during your lifetime.
Free Jack is one of them.
Free Jack, I would say, is Mick Jagger's best movie.
Well, you say that. Have you ever seen Performance?
No.
Ah, there you go. Nicholas Roeg.
Oh, right. Well, I would say it's probably still Free Jack as his best movie.
All right.
Estevez. Yeah, I like Emilio Estevez. I just think he's got a charm. I don't think he's great in The Breakfast Club. I'll admit.
He has moments.
He's a bit flat sometimes.
He has moments, particularly in the second half of the film. I'll give him that.
Yeah, but I like him as a personality, as a performer. I enjoy the movies that he's done. Anthony Michael Hall was in a few movies in the 80s, then disappeared for 20 years, didn't he?
Kind of. I mean, he was working, right? He wasn't missing. No. Didn't literally disappear.
It wasn't a Julian Sands situation.
Oh,
I know.
Poor Julian. Yeah, I don't know. It was funny because I read an article that talked about how during the 80s, that cluster of years during the 80s, John Hughes, Molly Ringwald, and Anthony Michael Hall became like a little clique, which is fucking weird considering they were children. He was a grown man.
Yeah.
But by all accounts, I don't know, John Hughes was kind of a kid at heart, maybe missed out on some of his actual teen years.
Said that about Michael Jackson.
Oh. So perhaps there was some sort of living vicariously through them. Obviously, Anthony Michael Hall and Molly Ringwald dated for a short period of time after The Breakfast Club.
Oh, did they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But then John Hughes sort of went a bit Tim Burton and tried to cast them both in everything. And they were just like, nah, we're not Johnny Depp. and they just started turning roles down. Like, I know Anthony Michael Hall was supposed to be the John Cryer character in Pretty in Pink.
Okay.
Cannot imagine anybody other than John Cryer doing that role. I have to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Molly Ringwald, I believe, was supposed to be in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
As Sloane?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Potentially. But yeah, they kind of got a bit tired of the whole shtick.
Yeah.
And then they sort of parted ways.
That's understandable. I mean, you probably want to do different things if you can. Unless you're Johnny Depp. No, it's different. In this one, you've got scissors on your hands. Still a Tim Burton movie, though, isn't it, really?
Speaking of, Anthony Michael Hall was in Edward Scissorhands. That's just reminded me.
Was he?
That's just unlocked a memory, yeah.
Oh, no.
I think he was like the meathead boyfriend.
Trevor Meathead?
Yeah, Trevor Meathead.
He literally had meat for a head.
Yeah. How weird.
There you go. So he was in stuff. Like,
yeah.
It's not like it was obvious. I'm guessing he was probably consistently working, but it just wasn't in the sort of things that I watched.
And then he obviously cropped back up again in the worst of the the worst character in the latest Halloween movies.
Yeah, he was an annoying character in that, for sure. And you were like, oh, it's Anthony Michael Hall. I was like, Where? All I can see is this guy that looks like he's eaten antimicrobial. In a million years, I would not put that together.
No.
Still a handsome man, don't get me wrong. Yeah, he's got like a gruff, burly look to him, which would make me feel safe.
No, it looks like
he could put his arms around me and protect me in the bar.
He's sort of morphing into Malcolm McDowell a little bit, facially.
Do you think so?
Yeah, it looks like his face is made of plasticine. I don't care for it. But like Malcolm McDowell now, not from like Clockwork Orange era.
I haven't thought about Malcolm McDowell in ages. Breakfast Club.
Yeah. Why is it called the Breakfast Club? They don't even eat breakfast.
They don't eat breakfast. They skip breakfast, don't they?
Oh, so it's an ironic name like Little John.
From Robin Hood.
Yeah. He was massive.
I know. God, I could just think about that for a minute. Yeah, maybe it is an ironic name because they went straight to. They had it about 10:30, so it's more of a brunch situation.
It was a very early lunch.
Well, the original title for this was actually The Lunch Bunch.
No, it wasn't.
It genuinely was.
No, it wasn't.
It was.
No, it wasn't. You can't say things with a straight face.
It was.
You can't put out misinformation. You can lie to me when there aren't microphones here, but you can't do it to our audience, okay?
All I'll say is that Wikipedia said that the original title for this movie was The Lunch Bunch.
That
so I
sucks.
thought that makes sense because they didn't have food very early. So maybe they just compromised because they were going to have it like 12 o'clock-ish. Maybe they thought, well, we'll call it a breakfast club, but we won't eat breakfast at breakfast. We'll do it halfway between at brunch, but we can't call it a brunch club. Because brunch wasn't a thing in 1984. Brunch wasn't invented until 93? When we got
brunch,
square plates and table fireworks.
What on earth is going on? Table fireworks?
Yeah. You remember table fireworks from the 90s?
At brunch?
No, not at any meal, really.
What was going on in Southend in the 90s?
Table fireworks, fondues.
Yeah, apparently. Raclette.
Raclette. Yeah, exactly. Now you're getting it. 90s stuff.
The Raclette Club.
Yeah. The Raclette Club. Maybe we should do a Swiss version.
Okay.
We should. The Raclette Club. I like it.
So
Let's get on that.
Going back to the characters. We talked a bit about Emilio Estevez. I want to talk about Andrew.
Yeah, the character.
Yeah.
The football guy.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, the wrestler.
Oh, yeah, of course, wrestler.
Different sport.
Insert any sport, really.
He was originally supposed to be a football player, but they figured that was done to death in the 80s, so they went with wrestler.
So he completely changed his character by making him a wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. So I know two things about his character.
Mm-hmm.
Like initially, I know that he is a wrestler.
Yep.
And at some point in the movie, I learned that he did, in fact, tape someone's buns together. So he's also a bully.
Yeah, he's not a great guy.
Great guy.
Much like Bender. There's kind of echoes of that in both of them. They're both sort of bullied by their parents and kind of pay that forward, which is shitty, but kind of understandable. I have to be honest. What kind of mind dreams up taping someone's buns together? What kind of sicko behaviour is that?
It was quite creative, I guess.
What?
I don't know.
I mean, like, I guess the general bully thing in the 80s was just like flushing someone's head down the toilet.
Yep, that would have been standard, I guess. But again, maybe Hughes was like, nah, like the football.
We've seen that.
We've done that before. What else can they do?
How about?
Yeah.
Was John Hughes all right?
No.
No,
I don't think that he was.
I don't know much about the man himself. We'll have to come back to this.
No, I don't either.
Okay.
But I mean, well, I'm not. Like, in terms of his work ethic, he's got to be a bit insane to have done that much work in the 80s.
That's true.
There's something wrong with you to... That's all... You make, like, 5 movies in a year. How is that even possible?
Insane.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the drugs.
Yeah, methamphetamine.
Yeah, big drugs.
So Andrew's pretty nondescript.
Andrew, yeah.
Besides that,
I forget we're talking about Andrew still.
But I would argue that he probably has one of the biggest sort of character arcs. He kind of goes through one of the biggest changes, I would say, because he's sort of really posturing and like, even when he's talking to Claire at the start, he's sort of turning around to make sure like, oh, people are watching me, I have to behave in a certain way. And by the end, he seems to have found a little bit more self-acceptance.
Yeah.
I think I like his character arc the most.
I guess so. I don't know. Again, he does obviously change and, you know, things develop.
He does weed.
He does weed and he becomes insane.
Apparently his was laced with bath salts.
Yeah.
I don't think John Hughes can't have done weed. John Hughes can't have smoked weed, can he?
I guess not.
If he thinks that's how people behave.
Yeah, he breaks the glass by screaming a bit.
No, he'd be having a sleep somewhere.
Yeah.
After laughing his tits off at nothing for an hour.
I love it. He comes out of the room toking on a cone.
Yeah, the first time ever.
And there's all that smoke behind him. And then he seems fine. Then all of a sudden he just starts beating his chest and dancing.
Doing acrobatics.
Yeah, he does a few flips. And you just think, what's going on? But there's a few moments like that in this movie that are a bit kind of music video-y.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, like any
Did John
excuse
Hughes
for.
Do any music videos?
I mean, yeah, he must have.
I love the fact you say that so confidently.
He must have.
I guess.
At the very least, he would have done like, because this is around about MTV time, right?
Yeah.
He might have at least directed music videos to the songs of some of his movies. I would guess. Or maybe they made them at the same time. I mean, what's the music video for the song? Don't you?
Well, I don't know, because they originally shopped the song around to a couple of different bands. Who
House Martins.
One of them was Billy Idol, but it was turned down. Simple Minds ended up with it, and they thought it was just going to do nothing. So they recorded it in 3 hours and didn't think about it again. And then they got a call when the movie came out saying, "Oh, it's #1 in the States."
Wow.
Which came as quite the shock.
And must be their most popular song.
I couldn't name another.
My follow-up. I was going to ask you name another.
Name a second Simple Minds song.
Yeah, me neither. This is the one I know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a banger.
It's a good song.
It is a banger.
It's memorable.
You never tire of it. Whenever it comes on, it's not like I ever skip it.
I tired of it a little bit yesterday when I heard you singing it through the wall. I'll be honest.
Right, yeah, but my singing is enough to put anyone off a song. I ruin any song for anybody.
Agreed.
What about
we haven't talked about Claire at all.
That's where I was getting to. Molly Ringwald. So not someone I was hugely familiar with really, because I hadn't seen 16 Candles until 2 years ago, and didn't see this movie until late. And I don't think there's much else that I would have seen her in. So
potentially
not someone that I had a massive affinity for. Like going in, like, oh, nostalgia, I remember this person doing this thing or whatever.
She was definitely most famous for these movies with John Hughes.
Yeah. And I didn't particularly enjoy her character much either. I thought she's very snobby, very pretentious, very, what's the word? I just didn't like her very much.
Snooty.
Snooty, yes, she was very snooty.
I think it's sort of sad that Claire is defined more by the actions of those around her than her own personality or lack thereof. Like the most memorable moments during this film are when Bender is A, mercilessly bullying her, B, sexually harassing her, or C, mocking her for putting lipstick on with her boobs. He's awful. And that's like her defining characteristic. She's stuck up and then she cries.
Yeah. And then she's just seems to be kind of fine with everything that's happened in the movie at the end.
Look, don't even get me... I like to pretend that doesn't happen. I hate the two shoehorned in romances.
She's a terrible character, isn't she? Really, I'm really trying to think what about her character a bit more now. We're talking about it, and I can't really think of anything that I enjoyed about it. Really,
because she starts...
I feel mean. Like there must be something.
Well, she starts the film...
What do you mean? The dance that she does on the steps.
It's funny you say that because she hated it.
Did she?
Yeah. Initially, she was supposed to be the only one dancing during that scene, and she felt really self-conscious about it as a 16-year-old. You know, not surprising. And so it was rewritten so everybody was dancing, and she hated it. She thought it was generic and like looked like a just music video girl. and she hated it.
I mean, it's not going to win any awards for choreography.
It's no Flashdance.
But, what kids know fucking choreography? I was fine with that. And it's a banging tune as well. So, I forgive. I enjoed that. Like I was going to say, it's probably the only part of that character that I enjoyed, doing that little dance. It was great. Let's do some more.
Well, I kind of love that because that's when they all let loose, isn't it? It's when they all sort of decide that they're going to be free of judgment for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, she starts the movie being really kind of snooty again, like sort of saying to her dad, oh, I can't believe you couldn't get me out of this. Oh, it's not like I'm a defective or anything. She's being really shitty about the other people who are likely to be there. She's just not a nice person. And obviously, throughout the events of the movie, we kind of learn why each character is the way they are, like parental pressures or abuse or the polar opposite of that, just being ignored. But in her case, it's just her parents use her as like a bargaining chip in arguments, which seems like the lesser of the things that are going on amongst the parents. I'll be honest. Her dad seems all right at the start.
Yeah. I don't know. He seemed a bit weird to me.
Did he?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
So maybe it was that scarf that he was wearing. But I don't know. I got bad vibes from him.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, she has the least struggle. I guess maybe that's why I think maybe she's the least interesting character.
But I mean, they literally say that, don't they? Well, Bender does towards the end.
Yeah, but I mean, now I've got to agree with Bender, have I? Great.
It's harder to feel sorry for people who are given everything on a silver platter.
Yeah.
So it would have been an uphill struggle to make her character sympathetic, I believe.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not saying like I necessarily need to like all of these characters, but I find that I sort of struggle with, I guess maybe because they are by design somewhat generic or meant to be kind of archetypes, as you say, and apply to many different people. I find it that they're kind of nondescript and a bit outside of a certain few actions of a certain few people. They're a bit one note, a bit flat, a bit... I don't know.
I think she did a really good job with the material. Particularly that scene where they're, post weed smoking, where they're all sat around having the heart-to-heart and having their little confessional moments. I think she's really good in that scene.
Yeah.
Genuinely. I think they all are, actually. And I read somewhere that John Hughes was actually quite receptive to ad-libbing, and that scene was largely unscripted. Most of it came from them.
Okay. Which
is pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, it's good. They did good. I didn't love the performances.
Okay.
I got to say, like I found some of them a little bit hard to latch onto. I don't know what it is, because in that final scene, I feel like the scene that you're talking about when they're all having a discussion, I'm definitely meant to be feeling something at that point.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, you're all idiots. Why you? Come on.
Apart from Brian, who's quoting Richard Pryor.
Yeah. Okay. Is that okay?
For him to quote Richard Pryor?
Yeah, in the way that he does. Probably not. It's John Hughes' movie.
Yeah. Potentially problematic in some way.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I find maybe it's more the characters that I find annoying more than anything else, but I just don't enjoy their characters very much. There's other things about this movie that I enjoy more. So
that's interesting to me. Are there any films about teenagers that you do enjoy? Or
Probably
is it just
not?
Is it like the genre of teen movies that doesn't really appeal to you because most teenagers are annoying? I'm sorry if we've got any teenage listeners. Yeah, Booksmart's great.
I'm just looking at your collection now. Clueless, I think's fine. I'm not.
Wow.
I'm not a huge defender of that movie. I think it's all right.
Ugh.
But it's definitely more of a taste thing, and I'm definitely wrong because everyone disagrees with me.
10 Things I Hate About You. That's a great one.
Yeah, it's all right. It's pretty. It's pretty good.
Ferris Bueller. You said yourself. You've name checked it.
Yeah, of course. That's definitely my favourite teen movie by like a huge amount.
Edge of 17. You enjoyed?
Yeah. Yep. I was trying to remember what that was then. But yeah, that's
not the Stevie Nicks song.
Yeah. Yeah, teen movies is probably not something I visit an awful lot.
So maybe that's got something to do with your enjoyment of the characters then.
Didn't love Bottoms, did I? Last year.
No. No, you didn't.
Now, that was quite surreal in places.
Very. Yeah.
That was definitely, I said earlier, refusing to let go of things that were created by John Hughes. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. It's
I
not.
don't think Bottoms has a John Hughes vibe at all.
It totally has a John
No
Hughes vibe.
way!
Of course it does.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't see that at all.
Okay. Side discussion off mic.
I'm always happy to have my mind changed.
Yeah, me too. But I feel like that in this world that movie probably doesn't exist with movies like this, with movies like The Breakfast Club. And I think that it was definitely a margin in places into things like this.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't love that one either. Maybe that was kind of the surreal stuff that happened in that took me out of the movie a little bit. And maybe that's some of my problem with this movie as well.
The surreal stuff.
Maybe.
So, like
because
what?
I don't mind
the weed smoking, obviously.
Yeah, but like I don't mind them doing a little dance to a cool song as long as it doesn't last too long, because movie's got to finish at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when they're whistling, I'm like, why are you whistling? Like, what's going on?
Boredom.
Yeah, I guess so.
I read a theory about, I want to say like 6-7 years ago. It's a fan theory that's been circulating the internet for a long time now, at least the better part of a decade. I don't know how much I like it, but it's certainly interesting. And that is that none of it really happened, that Allison is insane.
Yeah,
and that she hallucinated everything.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I like it. I think,
you?
Yeah, let's Fight Club it. Definitely. It's way more interesting.
She was everyone.
Yeah, let's do a sequel and that entirely takes place in her mind.
Okay.
But you know it.
Right.
And then we go inside her mind, but we go inside the Emilio Estevez inside her mind, and we go inside his mind. Like a kind of an Inception situation.
This sounds like a really fucked up version of Inside Out. I don't know if I like it.
Yeah, it's inside out.
It's too meta for my liking.
Yeah, that's what they should have called Inside Out 2, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, okay. I think I'm kind of on board with the fan theory as well.
Yeah, it's great.
I think her actions throughout the movie definitely suggest she's not the full ticket.
Yeah, I guess so. But I don't know. For me, it feels like she's just not really taking anything too seriously.
Oh, I don't get that impression.
Well, that's part of that's part of the reason I kind of enjoyed her, because I thought that she's just sort of going with the flow and just doing what comes naturally to her at the time. I don't know.
I think she cares deeply about what people think of her.
I
think she hates having no friends.
I guess that's kind of the point of this movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're probably right.
She's a kleptomaniac.
Yeah.
The theory is that all of the stuff that she stole from them, like Bender's knife, Brian's wallet, that sort of stuff, were things that she stole from school throughout the week, and that she just dreamed up this whole scenario on Saturday for something to do. And a lot of it is wish fulfillment for her, because she gets a makeover, she gets a boyfriend,
yeah,
she makes some friends.
Yeah,
she got more out of it than anybody, I would say. I kind of like it. I'm not gonna lie.
It's more interesting than the actual ending of this movie, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah,
for me.
So we teased it at the start, and I read Molly Ringwald's New Yorker article from about 6 years ago, where she goes into quite some detail. Basically, she rewatched a bunch of her movies with her daughter in a kind of freshly post-Me Too environment. And as much as she's still proud of the work that she did and she thinks the films are good, I was quite pleased to see her sort of call out all that bullshit and condemn it and say that it wasn't okay for it to be included, even for the time. But some of the, like, there's effectively a rape joke in the first third.
That was a Bender classic, right?
Yeah, of course. There was a scene that it was sort of intimated that he touched her inappropriately. There was a bunch of stuff, and it was just really disheartening to see her end up with him at the end. It didn't make any sense to me. It seemed like such a 180, and I don't really know. I haven't read anything kind of attempting to justify that choice.
I don't think there is any justifying it.
Well, no, certainly not
really.
today. But it didn't make any sense within the context of anything that had happened. He was being awful to her 10 minutes previously. It made no sense to me. And that remains kind of the biggest thing that lets this movie down, that really takes me out of it.
Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, I can see that.
It's not enough to sort of put me off ever watching this movie again, but it certainly puts a bit of a dark cloud over my enjoyment of it, which is a shame. But again, trigger warnings. That's all you need.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about the adult presence in this movie, really. Obviously, we've got Dickie. Is he the principal?
Dickie?
Richard?
I thought it was called Vernon.
Richard Vernon.
Oh, I thought it was called Vernon.
You thought it was called Vernon Vernon?
I thought his first name was Vernon. I wasn't sure on his surname.
Vernon Richard. Or Richard Vernon. One of those two.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on him.
Yeah, pretty interesting character, actually.
Is he?
Yeah, I think so. He's a massive bellend, but he's you can see the conflict in him. You can see
I don't see that at all.
No?
Explain. What's the conflict?
He doesn't want to be an asshole.
I thought you were going to say he doesn't want to be there. Well, yeah, that much is evident.
He has just become one, which is like they obviously have that discussion.
Okay, so he's the living embodiment of when you grow up, your heart dies.
Yeah,
is that what you're
saying?
I
think that's the point. Yeah.
Okay. There are several moments where
I don't love him. He's a dickhead.
Yeah, he's awful.
You can't lock a child in a cupboard
and threaten to beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
And then go through confidential files.
Even if it is Bender.
Even if it is Judd Nelson, yeah. Who also went into a laundromat near the set in character and had the police called on him.
What?
Because of how he was looking at some of the women in there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it gets worse.
Suddenly making sense why John Hughes didn't want to work with him again, right?
Yeah.
And that's why he was punished with that soul patch in Airheads, as you pointed out last night.
Yeah.
I feel like that was written in after the fact. It's like, oh, fucking make him suffer.
Make him wear a soul patch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your character has a soul patch. Go method.
Yeah.
Grow it now.
No, I reckon it was a stick-on one. I reckon the directors were like, someone bring me samples of 38 soul patches, and Judd Nelson has to try every single one of them on.
Oh, what a cretin.
Yeah. But I didn't hate the teacher character in the sense that I could see some conflict in his decisions there, or like some regret maybe in some of his actions.
Okay.
And when he's talking to the caretaker as well, and they're sort of kicking back, are they having a beer?
I don't remember. Maybe. They're having a bit of an informal chit-chat, yeah.
Yeah. And I can see that the caretaker's kind of gotten to him a little bit, like, oh, come on, mate,
Okay.
you would have hated you when you were 16. And you can see that he's kind of admitting that. Maybe he's not saying that, but I'm picking up on something in his performance.
Interesting, because I didn't get that at all. That's an interesting perspective.
Maybe my heart has died.
Maybe.
I'm turning 40 tomorrow.
Oh no, I'm already 40. Does that mean mine died years ago?
Your heart died.
It's shriveled.
Way before we even met.
That's so rude. But it's interesting you bring up the janitor, because he's my second favourite character.
All right.
I don't know if you noticed, but when you get all those establishing shots at the beginning of the interior of the school, there's like a trophy cabinet, and there's a picture of him as a teenager, as a student. Right. So I feel like he's sort of the perfect character that kind of straddles both lines. Like he wasn't a student that long ago that he's forgotten what it was like, and he's kind of in a custodial position, which, not to rag on people in the custodial industry, because it's an absolutely very necessary job, but it doesn't carry the same sort of responsibility as like principal of a school, for example. So he's sort of able to see both perspectives because he's kind of in the middle.
Yeah. He's
I don't know.
Yeah, I prefer the theory that he's kind of closer in age to the teenagers than Vernon or Richard, whatever his name is.
Principal Bellend.
Yeah. Mr. Belding.
No, not Mr. Belding.
I just remembered Mr. Belding and it's made me smile.
He played a paedophile in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
You have to ruin everything.
I didn't ruin it.
Mr. Belding, I was just thinking, oh, what a sweet principal he was.
Blame Rob McElhenney, not me.
Good show, though.
Very good show.
I'd watch. They must have done a Breakfast Club bit before, right? They must have.
I would be astounded if they hadn't.
Yeah.
I think that's
because Dennis clearly is Bender, right?
Yeah. And Mac is Andrew. fighting his own compulsory
Yes.
heterosexuality.
Yeah. Oh, not making Charlie the clever one.
Oh, no. No. Frank? This has gone awry. But it's interesting you bring that up, actually, because I think it's really kind of testament to how much of a kind of a film has hit the cultural zeitgeist. Is that an oxymoron? How much it's penetrated like the general consciousness in terms of how much it's parodied or homaged.
Yeah.
And obviously things like The Shining are really up there, but The Breakfast Club is kind of up there as well, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That's been aped a lot and referenced a bunch.
Yeah.
So I think for it to have pierced through the zeitgeist as it did, we kind of have to give it props. Because I know you've been sort of struggling for positive things to say about the film, but it's certainly had a lasting impact, hasn't it?
It has had a lasting impact, which is kind of fascinating because it's not like it's had any other sequels, remakes, series, TV shows, or if it
that
has,
we know
I'm
of.
not aware of it.
Yeah.
Whereas, Ferris Bueller, Weird Science, they both had TV shows.
Did Weird Science have a TV show?
Yeah.
Did Ferris Bueller have a TV show?
Yeah.
Where have I been? Have I been living under a rock?
The Weird Science, I want to say the TV show had Vanessa Angel in it, who was in Kingpin.
She's no Kelly LeBrock.
Well.
Agree to disagree.
But yeah, it's. I find it interesting that this has kind of lasted so long. I think those movies have as well. I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I mentioned Ferris Bueller's definitely my favourite John Hughes. Weird Science is some people's favourite John Hughes.
Also problematic.
Probably,
for very different reasons.
It's been a long time since I've seen that too. Because Chet turns into
Chet is the best.
Slug.
That's one of my favourite Paxton performances.
It's Paxton, yeah. Say that every time we watch a Paxton movie.
Yeah.
It's my favourite one, this. Yeah, should we watch Near Dark next? Oh yeah, that's my favourite one.
Yeah. It's so hard to pick
my favourite
a best one.
Oh, well, and maybe tomorrow night we watch Aliens. Yeah, that's my favourite Bill Paxton performance. It's the dry heat. It must be good. It must be. What is it about this film that people love so much? I'm struggling because I do. Like I said, there's this weird thing about John Hughes movies that I just find I'm drawn to. Like I put it on and I'm quite interested in what's happening.
I think because he wrote characters like nobody else. Obviously, we've talked about how some of the stuff in the scripts was not ideal, wouldn't get written today. But putting that aside, he did write teenagers like nobody else.
Is that what it is? Is he good at writing characters?
I think he's reasonably good, which is a weird thing to say after we've just talked about how a lot of the characters in The Breakfast Club kind of lack distinct personality traits.
That's what I'm kind of struggling with, like, because there's something about it that I kind of enjoy.
Maybe he just has like a really good homogenous teenage voice.
I don't know, because like Home Alone.
Yeah.
Like the teenagers in that are horrible and they could quickly get rid of them in the beginning. They don't die, you understand? They go on holiday and they leave the child behind. That's the premise of that movie, in case you haven't seen it. It's good. Watch it.
Yeah, it's all right. I think he was a better writer than he was a director.
Well, he only directed 9, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then he stopped making movies. Or he stopped directing movies, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder why. I wonder if it's just because he did too much and he's like, I don't want to do that anymore.
Maybe he just burnt himself out.
Yeah, quite possibly. Because I think he was quite keen to obviously start directing and, was like, look, come on, guys, these budgets are low. Let me get directing and whatever. So maybe, like you say, he did just burn himself out.
Yeah, perhaps. But there is like a kind of universal appeal to his films, though, I think. Like, despite the whiteness and the straightness of his casts, I don't know, there is something that speaks to the experience of being that age.
Yeah, agreed.
Even if that is the self-importance and the selfishness and the small worldview, like that's a part of it, right?
Definitely, 100%. Was just thinking about Ferris Bueller again.
Yeah.
Because Ferris Bueller's fucking insufferable as well. He's a twat.
Oh, he's a dick to his best mate.
Yeah,
I'm Team Cameron all the way.
100%. Like when he gets and starts dancing on that parade thing at the end, you just want to push him off. But but I really enjoyed that performance though from Matthew Broderick. I don't know, he's a bellend, but he's still got like a charm to him. He's still got like a fun bouncy time.
I watched that with my dad when I was a kid, and he described Matthew Broderick as very punchable.
Yeah. That was before even Godzilla came out. Or do you remember Addicted to Love?
Oh, very vaguely, sadly.
Yeah. But it's funny, I was just wondering why I enjoy Ferris Bueller so much over this film, because again, insufferable character, but it has Matthew Broderick's performance really, I'm bored with that.
I think it's a bit snappier, it's a bit pacier, more happens.
Yeah. This is a bit more, we're having a conversation, and that can be fine. But for me, like, you're really leaning on the discussions, the complex discussions, the character performance, the cast performances and the characters. And I guess in a film where by their nature they're meant to be a bit surface level, it kind of makes it difficult to really dig into their characters, and they get into their kind of their home life, but it's still like, this thing happened and now that's why I'm like this. It's
still a bit tertiary, and they are broad stereotypes, because I'm guessing John Hughes and the other people involved kind of wanted the largest audience possible to be able to identify with one of them, right?
Yeah, that's generally why you would make that decision, I guess. Yeah. And it works clearly for a lot of people.
Well, yeah, we're both Allisons.
It's just not massively interesting to me.
Okay, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
But I tell you what, that song's a banger.
It is a good tune. The one and only Simple Minds song that was ever released.
The only one, yeah. Do you think that they should maybe attempt a remake of this?
I was thinking about that,
Remake, reboot, legacy sequel,
I honestly don't know, because the kind of attempts that have been made more recently, things like Mean Girls, for example, or Heathers. There was that very short-lived TV show, I think.
Oh, I thought that was a musical.
There was a musical as well. I think that fared a little bit better. I don't know. I don't know that these things necessarily need bringing up to date, but it could be an interesting opportunity to address the lack of diversity, the slightly different issues that teenagers face today. Like, you could touch on things like social media. It could be interesting. Like, we're not the target audience anymore, so I kind of feel bad for saying, like, no, don't do it, don't touch it. Yeah, maybe do it for a new generation.
I'm kind of, obviously, along with many people, are kind of getting sick of these. Just the other day you said to me, they're doing a remake of Possession.
Oh my god.
And I was like, it's probably going to be good.
No, it won't. The director of Smile.
I thought you liked Smile.
It was okay. It's no Possession.
All right. But my point is that best case scenario is probably going to be good, but it's still going to be something that I've seen before. Like, come on. But
But the premise of The Breakfast Club is so generic anyway.
Yeah, it's generic, but then also, like, if you're going to remake something, I think that is kind of the ideal opportunity. If we have to redo something, why not let's do this movie that's somewhat very problematic. Let's introduce more diverse cast, more interesting characters. Let's try and do something different with it. And it can still be a sequel. You can have your cake and eat it, like many of these legacy sequels do. They kind of remake the original movie, but also it's a kind of a sequel where we're passing the baton.
Yeah, just have it be none of the characters left their hometown and all bred at the same time, so it's their children.
Yeah, yeah. And
that likely scenario.
I think it's a pretty good opportunity. I wouldn't be mad at that. Clearly, because I have no sort of dying love for this movie.
Yeah.
I'm
getting that sense.
I'm not, I just don't care that much about it.
Okay.
But I bet you that there are people that do care about it.
Yeah.
And they will be furious if a remake got greenlit. And I kind of want to see that.
Maybe you should tweet it as though it's fact.
Is there an
as a social experiment?
Yeah. But I mean, but I think, yeah, do a remake. Like, in all seriousness, it's not a bad thing to kind of make a movie about. Kids sitting in a room having a conversation with each other, you know, when we're particularly talking about mental health and the sorts of things that we talk about more and more nowadays than we did back then. I think it's, you know, for £1 million, let's make that movie again. Why not? Fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah.
But make it better.
But who would do the song?
Vin Diesel. Or a duet with Steven Seagal.
I wish I could fund it. I wish I had unlimited funds.
Oh, let's be honest. It's going to be fucking Ed Sheeran, isn't it?
Oh no, it'd be Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah. But ideally, I don't know, Yeah Yeahs, or a band from 15 years ago that nobody listens to.
That's no longer relevant.
I'm not a kid, so I haven't got any reference points.
Charlie XCX. There we go.
Sure.
Her music is so impenetrable to me. I'm so old. But yeah, something to bring it up to date. So, did you know, just before we wrap up, that there exists a 2.5-hour director's cut of this movie?
What? No way. Like an hour 37 was pushing it.
I knew this would be your reaction. It's never been released.
Thank God.
I don't know where it is. Apparently the only person that does know where it is John Hughes' widow.
Okay.
And she's keeping it under wraps. So
it's not in that Chilean salt mine with Event Horizon.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. We're in the desert with those E.T. games.
Yeah.
Did I remember that right?
Yeah. That's usually my reference point.
It's so bizarre that you just quite every time I think of it, I question it. Go, that can't be real.
It's a fascinating story.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so we'll probably never get to see the 2.5-hour version. But if you are at all interested, if you go on IMDb in the trivia, there is a list of a lot of the scenes that were cut, which is quite interesting.
Okay.
Some of it a little bit out there, I will say.
Okay.
So in summation, I think we already know your feelings about this film, but you did say it's something you'd return to. So I'm curious to know exactly what it is that would make you return to it.
I don't know. It's the song. It's the song.
It's just the song.
It's the song.
You know, you can listen to that independently of the film, right?
Yeah. Because I don't know. Yeah, it's fun. I have a weird time with this movie. It's some part of it I'm sort of quite interested in it, and other parts I'm looking at my watch. I just think it's the John Hughesness of it, and because I'm maybe a bit of a completionist, like, and I'm watching Ferris Bueller, and I'm in that kind of John Hughes.
You want to watch something in the Shermer High extended universe?
You know, I've seen Ferris Bueller 38 times. I've seen this one 3 times.
Yeah. Maybe
let's give this one another go, and who knows? Maybe I'll have a different opinion, or maybe my thoughts will evolve, or whatever. I don't know, but. I would watch it again. Like, I don't hate it. I just, it's not like I see the 4s and the 5s from people, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's such a definable film," and that's fine. That's your experience. I'm not, you're not wrong. That's your opinion. That's great. But for me, I'm just like, it's sometimes unwatchable, other times quite interesting.
Yeah,
and it all sort of balances to be like, it's all right. But it's still John Hughes. It's still got that magic dust, whatever that is.
It's funny because I am sort of on the same page as you. I think I get more out of it than you do, a little bit. But if you'd asked me when I was 15, I would have been one of the 4 or 5 stars, without question. But definitely the older I get, the further away from my teen years I get, the less I get out of this film. Besides the nostalgia factor anyway, which I think is kind of pretty normal. I'm not the target audience anymore, right?
No, you're not.
But it will always have a special place in my heart. And I'm glad we covered it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it definitely fits within the season. It fits. They are literally in detention, and they are trapped.
Trapped in the school.
They're also trapped by their personal image, how they feel about themselves and each other, and kind of social norms and conventions. They're trapped within those things. So it definitely applies. And then there's that bit when they're holding the bars and it looks like they're in prison. So, it's a very subtle metaphor there. Yeah. I'm glad we covered it. I'm glad we covered it. I'm glad we did our first John Hughes. I'm not sure what other John Hughes movies we're going to be covering. I imagine at some point we'll probably get to all of them. But definitely Ferris Bueller would be at the top of my list.
We'll be here at 80 covering 16 Candles.
Yes.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, even further removed from the age that those movies are aimed at, yeah.
Cool. So what are we doing next week? What's the final show?
It's your season. It's the final episode in your season of Trap Movies.
Yeah.
It's a recent movie.
It's one of the newer movies that we've covered.
I think it's the newest movie that we've covered.
It might be. Yeah, we're covering Barbarian. I've seen it twice. You've seen it once. I, spoiler alert, really enjoyed it.
Okay, good.
So I'm kind of hyped to talk about that. And I think it'll be a fun one to end the season on.
I'm kind of interested to give this one a rewatch, especially knowing the outcome of it, which we won't spoil here. We'll spoil it next week.
Yeah.
But now I know where it's going. I'm kind of going to be looking out for things and maybe view it slightly differently because I quite enjoyed it, I think, as well. Quite liked it. But I'm looking forward to just ending on a bit of a fun time.
It's been a slog
bit of a fun time, but there are still dark themes in that which may or may not carry forward from previous episodes.
Oh, shut up. It's an accident. It's pure coincidence. I'm not a weirdo, okay?
We'll talk about it next week.